Welcome to Fireside Giants. Here today, talking Deshaun Watson with my co-host Anthony, the Great Rivardo. As you probably have seen, the rumors lately of Deshaun Watson looking to be traded to a team that's not the Houston Texans. He wants to leave Houston after the whole debacle, with the new GM Nick Caserio being hired and him just not being included in the process. They hired an outside firm to help them find a new general manager, and they completely ignored that. And Deshaun Watson was kind of left in the dark. They traded away his best weapon in DeAndre Hopkins. It doesn't look like they have any desire to bring back Will Fuller. They really haven't given him any weapons. He's being sacked record amounts these days, and he's looking to leave. However, the Texans remain committed to him. They remain, behind him and saying that they don't want to trade him. They want him to be the starting quarterback in Houston. And you know what J.J. Watt said when they were walking off the field in their final game of the season? We're sorry for wasting your best prime years. So if I'm Deshaun, I'm looking to maybe go to a team that can give me a better offensive weapons and really put me in a position to win, And a lot of people think that might be the Giants. Before we dive into the quotes that Dan Orlovsky has to say, and Anthony and I are going to go back and forth because we have vastly differing opinions on this topic specifically. Anthony, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm ready to talk some Deshaun Watson. It's a little off topic. It's not really Giants news. It's more NFL news. It's Houston Texans news. But there is a way that it relates to the Giants because Dan Orlovsky, like you mentioned, said something today on Twitter that a lot of Giants fans consider to be highly controversial. To me, it's not controversial at all, and I absolutely agree with him. A lot of people don't. I don't know why, but I guess that's why Alex and I are going to sit here, call each other names, yell at each other, and argue about it. So I guess that's pretty exciting, and I hope everyone listening to this or watching this enjoys watching me die on the inside a little bit as I try to hold back against Alex.
Yeah, I mean, you could try, but I have my opinions about this specific quote. And I personally think Dan Orlovsky is a freaking jackass for this personally. I mean, the guy did run out of the end zone trying to make a pass. Like, he is not the smartest quarterback of the bunch. Now he's an analyst somehow spewing out this nonsense.
This is not nonsense.
This is nonsense.
How is this
okay.
nonsense? Oh my God.
Let me read the quote. Let me read the quote first. Okay, so he said this morning, right, on Deshaun Watson, if I was Dave Gettleman of the New York Giants, I would take Daniel Jones, I would take Saquon Barkley, and I would take 3 first-round picks, and I would call Houston with an offer.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, well, you guys are both idiots. Why would you do that? And I understand the concept that Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but this team is not a top 5 quarterback away from being a winning football team.
Every single team is a top 5 quarterback away from being a playoff team. If you have Deshaun Watson, you're instantly a playoff team, and any playoff team has the chance of getting to the Super Bowl. Any playoff team can make that run. If you're a perennial playoff team, the Giants aren't that far off. We've been saying that. Their defense is really good. They have a lot of really talented players on the defense. Yes. Deshaun Watson's cap hit is only $10.5 million once he's traded. That is actually a lot of cap space freed up for the Giants to spend and fix things here and there. They really don't need to fix that much, though. We're all in agreement their offensive line should be average this year. We like the offensive line. Yeah, we're not that crazy about the offensive playmakers, but second round of the draft, it's only first-round picks. Second round, Alex, you and I have been talking about a ton of second-round wide receiver prospects that we love. We could find our wide receiver there. I don't know why we think that we can't. We can get that second-round wide receiver. Let's say Rondale Moore. Let's say Terrace Marshall. Let's say Nico Collins. Get that wide receiver. Maybe we can get a really good guy in the second round. Pair him with Deshaun Watson. We don't need the first-round pick if we're going to be picking at the back end of the first round anyway. It's fine. I don't care about that. I care more about having one of the top 5 players in the NFL on my team leading me to the playoffs year in and year out.
Yeah, but here's my argument against that, and it's pretty straightforward. You're giving up Daniel Jones, right? And a lot of people are down on Daniel Jones. Anthony, you and I both know.
I'm a big Daniel Jones fan. I love Jones, but if you're talking about Jones or Deshaun Watson,
he's not a top 5 talent. We know this, but at the same time, I can't sit here and say the Giants have even given Daniel Jones a quarter of what Deshaun Watson has had so far in his career. If you give Daniel Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, this is a whole different argument. If you give him DeAndre Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller, we're talking about a whole different quarterback, a whole different player.
We're still not talking about a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Okay,
that's not Daniel Jones.
He might not be a top 5 quarterback, but if you're talking about giving him DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and you have Saquon in the backfield, now you're talking about a player who you can mask some of those deficiencies. And Daniel Jones has the same qualities that Deshaun Watson does in terms of being able to run the football. He doesn't have the same ability to create plays like, unscripted plays. Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback because of his ability to make something out of nothing. That is what makes him an amazing player. Deshaun Watson's a top 5
quarterback because he's accurate, he's athletic, he doesn't turn the ball over at an extreme rate like Daniel Jones does. Like I said, big Daniel Jones fan, he turns the ball over a lot. Deshaun Watson had 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions this year. He doesn't turn the ball over. He had 4,823 passes.
He's fumbled 18 times over the past 2 years. So
Daniel Jones fumbled 18 times last year.
This is not a Daniel Jones versus Deshaun Watson argument. That's not what this
is. You made it one. You literally made it one, dude.
This is not.
You literally brought up Daniel Jones and started to compare them, and you made this argument. You made the argument that had Daniel Jones had these weapons, he could be a similar player. He can't be. Deshaun Watson is different. The way that he reads defense, the way that he manipulates them, how accurate he is, downfield, short game. He's literally a complete package at quarterback. Daniel Jones, I love Daniel Jones. I think we have a future with Daniel Jones. He's not a complete package at quarterback, and he's not going to be Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is a player who absolutely should win an MVP at some point in his career and absolutely make it to a Super Bowl or 2 or 3 at some point in his career. Yes, his time is being wasted in Houston because they haven't had good coaching and they haven't had good management, but the Giants have good coaching and they have a solid defense. I think that our defense is better than their defense, and I think that our playmakers are actually better than what the Texans put out there this past season after they traded away DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller got injured. I honestly think our playmakers are better than theirs. So if you put Deshaun Watson in this situation, they're not going 4-12. They're probably winning 9-10 games getting into the playoffs, and then you just build on that the next year. Yeah, we have a couple holes that we need to fill them this offseason. Low cap hit for Deshaun Watson. Just keep building and building. And, dude, you can make your team a Super Bowl team with Deshaun Watson. That's the borderline. That's the end-all, be-all. Deshaun Watson makes you a playoff contender and a Super Bowl contender instantly.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Look, I really do understand those things. But you cut me off before I was able to go on and tell you that this is not just about Daniel Jones. This is not just about Daniel Jones. And I'm not comparing the two by any means. Anyone with half a brain could tell you Deshaun Watson is 10 times a quarterback that Daniel Jones is. But you don't need to have an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. We've seen this with Eli Manning. Eli Manning was never an elite quarterback.
That's not true.
Never.
The years that he won,
was never an elite quarterback.
When he won in 2011, he carried the team to the Super Bowl. He was elite that season.
We had an elite pass rush too.
No, he didn't.
Elite pass rush. And dude, look what our defense did. We won 17 to 14.
The pass rush was terrible that regular season.
Not in the Super Bowl. Not in the Super Bowl. They weren't.
So he got them to the Super Bowl because he played elite all year. He was elite from start to finish that season.
He also had amazing offensive weapons. One of the
highest graded PFF seasons ever, and he was literally killing it. If Aaron Rodgers didn't go 15-1 that year, Eli Manning played at an MVP level. He was literally elite that season. You cannot deny that.
Okay, if he was elite one season, majority of his career, he was not elite.
He had like 3 elite seasons. That's the argument that we have all the time. Yes, he's not an elite quarterback consistently, but if you have those 3 seasons, the same argument that we make for Daniel Jones. If you have those 3 elite seasons, one of them you hit on, you win a Super Bowl. We think that that's Daniel Jones' ceiling. Why would we not want the guy whose ceiling is elite year in and year out?
Right, okay, so if we think that that's Daniel Jones' ceiling and we have given him 0 to work with, if you think about the last 2 seasons, you know as much as anybody else, these past 2 seasons, the offense for the Giants is basically centered around Saquon Barkley, who has literally not been playing for 2 years. Our wide receivers are literally nobodies. We have Austin Mack playing reps this past year. We have Dante Pettis suddenly coming out of nowhere to provide some sort of spark. We have Sterling Shepard, who's basically our only decent route runner going up against CB1s, and he can't get it done. Our CB2 is Darius Slayton. He did absolutely nothing this year. Evan Ingram can't catch a pass for his life. He's directly responsible for 6 turnovers. Their only good thing about the Giants' offense was their run game. That's it. And Daniel Jones, and here's an even bigger thing, aside from the 3 first-round picks that I'm not willing to give up, plus Saquon and Daniel Jones, this is a whole nother thing. I don't trust Jason Garrett to actually maximize Deshaun Watson. That's an argument we need to be having as well. Because I don't trust him.
If you bring in a new quarterback, you can bring in a new OC. The problem, of course the reason you can, but we're not getting rid of Jason Garrett is because we don't want to mess up the continuity with Daniel Jones. We can get a different OC if we bring in a new quarterback.
But there's not just like great OCs like scattered across the NFL for the pickings. You know, like people, if you get Deshaun Watson, it's attractive.
I think we're both in agreement that there's a lot of OC candidates who are better than what Jason Garrett is.
Oh hell yeah, that's
so.
Not,
so if we're bringing in Deshaun Watson, let's find a new OC. Take a chance on somebody. Why not?
Okay, yes, that would be the only way. I mean, aside from the draft capital, but I want to go back to the main premise behind this argument to begin with. You're talking about Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. Now, I will play.
Saquon didn't play this year, man. Saquon has been injured for the past 2 years.
Listen.
He's a running back. Running backs do not matter.
Listen. Okay, here is my diabolical plan, okay? My diabolical plan is, why the hell would Houston even accept that trade to begin with? They don't, obviously, if you're so against running backs and all this, and I've gotten on that same boat as well. They're obviously looking at Saquon and saying he hasn't played in a year. Why the hell would we even value him as anything right now?
They just traded DeAndre Hopkins.
No. Bill O'Brien traded. No. Bill O'Brien did that. He is not there anymore. It's Nick Caserio now. We know New England never valued running backs the way that any other team that drafts them in the first round did. They got Sony Michel, and after that mess, they're obviously not going to acquire Saquon and consider him a premium value. It's an offer, yes, but look, if in my opinion, what you do with Saquon Barkley, because I don't want to pay him, you don't want to pay him after his contract's over, his rookie contract is over. I don't want to pay him either. What you do here is you bolster him this next season. You make him look really good. You have that elite level season, and then you sell high on him. Right now, he's in an all-time low value-wise. Value-wise, he's an all-time high. You extend him on his 5th-year option. You sell him before that 5th year, and you get a second-round, anything, late first-round pick back. I don't know. Something for him. We'll see what you can get. But if he has an elite-level season, he shows he's Alvin Kamara-esque, stays healthy. The main thing is staying healthy here. You can sell high on a player like that. But with Daniel Jones, we haven't given him enough to even justify moving on from it. I think it's premature, but I get the idea. I get the concept that, you give away you're acquiring a top 5 quarterback and you're giving away Daniel Jones, but he hasn't proven anything yet. Again, why would Houston even want Daniel Jones to begin with if he hasn't proven anything yet? I don't know. I don't think Gettleman, this is a death sentence for Gettleman, by the way. If he actually even offers Saquon and DJ, he's already pretty much firing himself next season because he's already giving up 2 of his top draft picks. And then you have three first-round picks, right? And this past year, we have Andrew Thomas. We have Andrew Thomas, who I think is going to end up being a very quality left tackle. New management, new coaches. And basically, I think that these three first-round picks for the future could end up being so much better than what we've seen with the Saquon Barkley pick. I think Dexter Lawrence was great, but the DeAndre Baker pick, they're not making these shitty freaking picks anymore. This is a different coaching staff. The personnel decisions are going to be way different. Best player available. I think, if you can land a big wide receiver and you love Jalen Waddle, you love Devonta Smith, you love Jamar Chase, and we have a chance at one of those 3 guys, I don't think we can pass on getting one of those guys, giving Daniel Jones some actual support, and actually filling some of these holes on the roster before, trading for a top 5 pick who has a $40 million cap hit in 2022, with the cap space is going to be wrecked. We're backloading. If we make any signings this year, we have to backload them to 2022, 2023. And we have no draft picks to fill any holes in 2022 and beyond. You have
2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds. Hit on those. Dave Gettleman, do your freaking job.
Yeah, but you see what you're asking. You're asking Dave Gettleman to do his freaking job, but he has not, like you just mentioned before, he has not proven he can actually do his job.
Julian Love, he's
hit on a few mid-round guys. Neither of those guys are actually proven
Xavier McKinney was in the 2nd round.
None of those guys are proven.
They're not proven. They're draft picks. Of course they're not proven. They've only been in the league for 2 years. BJ Hill was a good player before we signed Leonard Williams over him. He's hit on mid-round picks. Like, it's not impossible to do. He just needs to be better. We've been saying that about Dave Gettleman. And in terms of why Houston would do this is because Deshaun Watson does not want to play for them. So he's going to say, okay, get me out of here. And then if they're actually going to listen to trade offers and the Giants make this offer and have them on the phone, you can't say no to this. You can't say no to 3 first-round picks. This is like the only way that Houston can accept this. They need to get a lot in return. Like, Houston would do this because Deshaun Watson can literally say to them, okay, I'm going to retire from football. I'm just not going to play because you're wasting my career and I don't want to play. And then he's just going to sit there and then they're going to be forced to trade him. So then they do. But when they do this, they can restart, get Daniel Jones, get a quarterback who has some experience but just needs a little more molding. We know Nick Caserio loves Daniel Jones because New England loved Daniel Jones. Belichick and Caserio really wanted Daniel Jones in that draft. So I think that Caserio would be welcoming of bringing Daniel Jones here, molding him into the quarterback that he likes to be. Plus, getting a blue-chip elite NFL offensive weapon in Saquon Barkley. Even if running backs don't matter, you're still getting an elite weapon in this trade, plus a quarterback that you can mold, plus 3 first-round picks. I would do this if I were Houston, and I would do this if I were the Giants.
I wouldn't do it because Houston is so much better off going to the Jets and saying give us your first round pick and a couple other things, and then they can draft their own quarterback on a rookie deal. Why the hell would they want Daniel Jones?
What if they're not crazy about Zach Wilson and Justin Fields?
Yeah, but look at Daniel Jones, dude.
There's a lot of risk. He's done
absolutely nothing. Daniel Jones is not going to carry an offense. They have zero weapons.
That's not true. I honestly think that Daniel Jones carried our offense for the majority of the season.
And we averaged 17.5 points per game, dude. That's not carrying an offense.
The offense sucked because he didn't have any weapons, but the offense could have been even worse. You saw the offense when Colt McCoy, and it was somehow worse.
Well, yeah, but Colt McCoy is Colt McCoy.
It was horrific, the offense. The defense
Colt McCoy is Colt McCoy. You can't compare those things. Daniel Jones started a majority. Daniel Jones started a majority of the season. There's no way they're going to carry
the offense. The offense was 10 times worse when he was taken out of the lineup.
If I was Houston, I wouldn't even be looking at the Giants as a potential option. I'd be looking at the Jets as my number one go-to option.
It's not really. What if Deshaun Watson says no to the Jets? It's not up to Houston at that point.
Well, I mean, yeah.
What if Deshaun says, I don't want to play for the Jets? They're a crap franchise.
Why would he want to play for the Giants? Why would he want to play for the Giants?
Have a nice winning organization, and they
don't.
They're literally one of the most historic teams.
That doesn't mean anything.
Sports.
That doesn't mean anything. I don't give. If you're an athlete,
it might mean something to Deshaun.
That means nothing.
He might want to play for a good organization with ownership that's actually won Super Bowls than the freaking Jets. The Jets are a poverty franchise, and they have been for 50 years. No one wants to play for the Jets. Anthony Barr signed a mega deal with the Jets and then said, no, never mind. I'm going back to Minnesota.
Well, because they freaking Minnesota. Terrible management. I mean, but look, the reality is the Giants have not been much better than the Jets the past couple of years. That's just the reality of the Giants situation. This past year was a lot better. I know.
Doesn't like
but it's about
coaching,
now.
And he likes
it's about Deshaun Watson right now saying, I want to win right now. I don't give a crap. I don't give a shit about what they did in the past.
He's not winning now with the Jets.
He's not winning right now. Yeah, but right now with the Giants,
dude, he might win now with the Giants. Look at their defense,
dude. Yes, yeah, but the defense doesn't play offense too. The defense
does not play offense. He carries that offense. They get one playmaker for him, and that's all he needs.
They can't get a playmaker for him. Don't you understand this?
Why not?
Because look at their cap situation right now.
They're fine. They have cuts to make. They can get a player. If not second round, we were literally talking about how much we love these second round prospects. Why can't they draft a second round wide receiver?
Yes, but they can. But a second round wide receiver is not a guarantee either.
Neither is a first round wide receiver.
It's way more guarantee. It's not. It's nothing's ever a guarantee. By the way,
everything's a crapshoot in the draft. Everything is a crapshoot.
Yes, but when you're talking about Waddle, Smith, and Chase, those three guys have a way higher probability of striking gold than Terrace Marshall or Rondale Moore, who's always injured, or Rashad Bateman, who's not going to be there in the second round. Our 43rd overall pick is not. We're not going to get a primo wide receiver at 43.
I disagree. I think that you might, because of this draft class. There are so many talented wide receivers being pushed down the board because of those top three.
You might find
a guy at 43.
You might be able to get a good guy, but it's not going to be like.
You might get a good guy at 11, and you might get an absolute bust.
Yeah, but okay,
take the chance. Why would you not take the chance to get this top 5 quarterback and then just take a chance on the receiver?
Okay,
the quarterback is far more important than this receiver. Get this quarterback.
I understand that. I get that. I get the fact that how important a quarterback position is and why getting a top 5 guy is such a big deal. But the reason I'm so against it, and let me rephrase, I'm not against trading for Deshaun Watson. I just don't like this specific deal. Okay? I'm okay with letting DJ and Saquon go. I don't like giving 3 first-round picks away because
I'll do any deal. He's priceless. He's literally priceless. A top 5 quarterback is priceless.
I disagree. The Vikings did this with the Cowboys, and the Cowboys ended up going on to win like a ton of. I think it was the Cowboys ended up trading some. Sorry, I forget. It was a long time ago.
Herschel Walker trade? You're talking about the running back Herschel Walker because running backs don't matter. So that trade was literally the worst thing ever for the Vikings, and it ruined their franchise because they traded for a running back.
Yes,
we all know that because they traded for a goddamn running back. Well, had they done that for a quarterback, had they traded for Dan Marino and they gave up all that,
it would be different, of course.
They would have won Super Bowls.
But what I'm saying is it's the implication. And right now, okay, this is my major argument behind the dislike of this deal is that right now the Giants have a projected cap space of $96 million. That's actually wrong because we don't even know what the cap space this offseason is going to look like. They're saying it could be $185 million, right? Let's say it's $185 million. That's down about $25 million, $20 million from this past season. So they're already going to have teams across the NFL are going to have to cut players they don't want to cut. The Saints are in a shithole right now. They're going to have to cut half their freaking team at this point and make a bunch of trades. They're looking to move Marshawn Lattimore at this point. But my major concern is if you don't have those draft picks, if let's say you get Deshaun Watson, he counts about $10 million this next season. So let's say the Giants are in a good position next season because they can sign a wide receiver, they can compete, and really that's it. They can compete, right, in 2021. But 2022, when that year comes along, Deshaun Watson's cap hit balloons up to $40 million. The cap space is not going to go up significantly because the 2021 season is still going to be affected by COVID. So that's going to be a problem. And maybe the cap goes back to 198, goes back to 200 million, what it was this past season. The Giants are now on the hook for Leonard Williams, who's $20 million a year, Deshaun Watson, who's $40 million a year. They can cut guys. Of course, you have DJ, and Saquon Barkley, whose contracts will be off the books. So that's another, $18 million. But then you still have to allocate stuff to the offensive line because Deshaun Watson. And let me remind you, Houston offense this year was average. They ranked 15th in points in passing yards per game. Right, so Deshaun Watson was an absolute animal this past year. He carried their team.
How is that possible to rank 15th in passing yards per game if he led the NFL in passing yards? There's no way that's true.
Look, I'm looking at it right now. The Houston Texans averaged 236.4 passing yards per game on offense. I'm looking at 2019. That's my bad.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say he literally averaged way higher than that. He averaged
it's irrelevant though. It's irrelevant. Look, the passing yards is irrelevant. They averaged the Houston Texans. Okay, this is even more just significant for my point. The Houston Texans averaged 24 points per game on offense, below average in the NFL, with Deshaun Watson because they had zero weapons, zero offensive line, zero draft capital, and zero cap space.
Yeah, he was sacked 49 times this year. He was sacked 44 times.
Exactly,
the year before.
and the Giants
62 times the year before. But still, year in and year out, he's still.
And if the Giants have zero money and zero draft capital, they can't. And if their offensive line, crumbles because you can't retain Kevin Zeitler, you can't sign a good right tackle, you don't have any premium draft picks to land a guard or a tackle, and we have Shane Lemieux starting at left guard, who's basically a walking turnstile as a pass blocker. Deshaun Watson is again going to be sacked one of the highest amounts in the game, and all it takes. And another point. If you give away DJ, Saquon, and 3 first-round picks, and Deshaun Watson gets injured, you are out so much freaking value.
That's the whole point, though. You're taking
the risk is too high. It's a gamble. That's right. I am not willing to take the gamble because the risk is not worth the reward, in my opinion. Because he's already tore his ACL once. He's already tore his ACL once in his career. When you have a running quarterback, those things happen. We've seen DJ this year, man. He had a hamstring injury, picked up ankle injuries. Deshaun Watson is a tough son of a gun.
Jones is more injury prone than Deshaun Watson.
Right now, I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that. But what I'm saying is, all it takes is one bad thing, that MetLife turf.
Well, here's the thing.
Deshaun Watson gets injured, and suddenly we have nobody. He's your entire offense. You have no playmakers around him. He's your entire offense.
Would you rather mortgage your future in an injury-prone Daniel Jones or less injury-prone Deshaun Watson?
It doesn't look.
If you're bringing up the injury, that's just my counterpoint to the injury.
No.
Okay.
Anybody. I can counter that. I can counter that. If you have Daniel Jones, you're not paying him $40 million per year, so you have money to bolster the offensive line. You have Saquon coming back, who's going to allow him to not run out of the freaking pocket all the time, take hits, try. And let me bring up another point. Daniel Jones literally said during the beginning of the year, this is what management told the media. They said Daniel Jones thought it was his job to carry the team because the offense was so bad. They literally had to convince him to stop trying so hard, and that's when his turnover problem stopped. That's when he stopped trying to make it just ridiculous plays and trying to carry the offense. And I think when you have more cap space, you have those draft capital, you can plug holes that you need. The Giants needed a left tackle. They got a left tackle. If they have these three picks, let's say they need a right tackle. They go into the draft next year, get a right tackle. They get a wide receiver this year. They sign a wide receiver. They get Saquon back. This offense is going to average 24. All you have to do is average the same amount of points as Houston, and it doesn't matter who the freaking hell your quarterback is. All that matters is how many points per game you score. Doesn't matter how you do it, who's on your freaking team, who your quarterback is. If you can average the same amount of points, that's all that matters. We had Wayne Gallman and old man Alfred Morris running the freaking ball this year. We had no wide receivers, one of the worst offensive lines when it comes to pass blocking. I want to see next year take a step forward. You give him some actual stuff, give him some weapons to utilize, and we're going to see this team, as long as they're average, if they average 24 points a game like Houston did, it doesn't freaking matter if Deshaun Watson's your quarterback or not, and you still have all your draft capital left. That's my point.
It definitely does matter if Deshaun Watson's your quarterback, because you're talking about Deshaun Watson on that team versus Deshaun Watson on this team. You think, okay, which roster is better, the Giants or the Texans?
I mean, I guess I would say the Giants based on their personnel moves. The Houston.
Right. So why don't you put Deshaun Watson in the Giants roster? What do you think? What do you think they win this year? They went 6-10. Where do you think they are realistically if Deshaun Watson is in that lineup?
Still a losing team. It doesn't matter. 6-10 isn't a justification for
The
good.
Giants went 6-10.
Oh, the Giants.
If Deshaun Watson was in that lineup, what did they go?
Let's say that maybe they win they probably win the NFC East, but they're probably gonna get smoked in the first round of the playoffs anyway.
The NFC East.
Yeah, but the NFC East is a piece of crap. They would win the NFC East as an 8-7 win team when this is the worst.
No, I'm asking you. That's not even my question, Alex. How many wins would they get? Just answer that. How many wins?
Maybe 8. 8 wins.
You think that's all they're gonna get with Deshaun Watson on this roster? 8 wins? How? How are they only getting 8 wins? Look at the roster. He got 10 wins last year in Houston. Dude, he went 11-5 and was sacked 62 times in 2018.
They still have Jason Garrett calling plays. They still have Evan Ingram dropping the ball. They still have no pass blocking offensive line. They still have no deep threats downfield.
Their offensive line is literally better than the
nobody respected.
Texans.
Nobody respected our wide receivers. They were playing cover 1 against us, cover 0, man coverage against our wide receivers and shutting us down. Like, this is not Deshaun. Deshaun Watson can't. What is he? He's not running the routes for our receivers too. He's not running the ball for us. He's not pass blocking.
He's throwing them open. He's taking off and extending plays. Deshaun Watson wins 11 games on this roster, in my opinion. 10 or 11 games. And I do think that he has a really good shot at beating the Buccaneers, who we almost beat in the regular season. Deshaun Watson can go on the road and actually beat that team. And I think once you beat that first playoff team, you build the momentum. I think he had a good chance of beating the second one, third one. I really think that if Deshaun Watson was on the Giants right now, we talked so much about our safety trio of Logan Ryan, Xavier McKinney, Jabril Peppers, Julian Love, and then we talked about James Bradbury, Blake Martinez, Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson, Dexter Lawrence. Look at that defense. If you want to make the argument that defense wins championships, and you also want to make the argument that elite quarterback play gets you to championships, that is literally the winning formula for success. If Deshaun Watson is on this team with this defense and all those studs that we have out there, and then it's him carrying that offense, let him carry the offense. He's done it before. He carried the Texans in 2018 to 11-5 while being sacked 62 times. Let him carry the offense.
You're not going to beat teams. You're not going to beat teams with Deshaun Watson and no offensive weapons around
Eli
him.
Manning beat the 15-1 Packers. You can beat teams.
Yeah,
There's
but he had
upsets.
Hakeem Nicks.
Get the guy who puts you in position. Get you the guys who put you in position to beat those teams. That's what it's about. Once you're in the spot and in the position, anything can happen. But we can't even get to that position right now. With Deshaun Watson, we absolutely could.
Yeah, but, maybe you absolutely could, but we're talking about a guy, right, at 25 years old. He's in the prime of his game. He's probably going to be amazing for the next 5 years, right? He threw for almost 5,000 yards. He threw for almost he's a quarterback that, he uses his legs a lot. If he gets injured, which is very likely for running quarterbacks, all of them or have a higher probability of getting injured. That's irrelevant though in this topic. He threw almost 5,000 yards and 33 touchdowns and still had a below average offense. Okay? That says a lot to me about what the importance of having weapons around him, right? When he lost DeAndre Hopkins, all of his offense, basically half of his points went with him. You know what I mean? That's a major thing.
But also keep in mind, they fired Bill O'Brien in week 4 and had nothing of a coaching staff for the next 12 weeks of the season.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant because we're talking about a guy who still had almost 5,000 yards and 33 touchdowns. It was personnel based. It was not Deshaun Watson. He had an amazing year.
Their coach made bad decisions that led to losses. It was not strictly personnel based.
Yeah, but how does that correlate? How does coaching, making decisions correlate to points per game when your quarterback had an unbelievable year?
Because you might have situations where Joe Judge would go for it on 4th down, but Romeo Crennel as an interim head coach would not. There are situations, in-game decisions that the coaches make that prevent teams from scoring points. Sometimes they make bad play calls. It's not strictly personnel based.
Let's say this. The first 4 weeks of the 2020 season, they didn't score over 23 points.
And then they fired Bill O'Brien.
Yes, and then they beat the Jaguars. They lost to the Titans. They lost to the Packers. They beat the Jaguars again. They lost to the Browns 10-7. They beat the Patriots. They beat the Lions. They didn't beat any good teams this year, dude. They beat no good teams.
Of course not, dude. They were literally an interim head coach was out there. Who are they going to beat? They beat the team. They beat a couple teams that they were supposed to beat. They whooped on the Jaguars like they were supposed to, right? But they weren't. Yes, they're not playing. You're not going to play up to the competition when you have an interim head coach and a locker room in turmoil and a quarterback that doesn't even want to be there. You're not going to play up and start beating the Titans. No, they almost beat the Titans in Week 17, didn't they?
They did. They almost
didn't that come down. They came down to a field goal.
Yes, they almost beat the Titans in Week 17.
Yeah, they did. He showed up and showed out in that game. He literally carried the team, but the Titans were the better team, so they won. But he still put them in position. Get your team in the position, and then you don't know what can happen. That's when you find out. The Giants can't even get in position to get to the playoffs right now. They literally went 6-10 and didn't make the playoffs. They can't even get in there. Once they get there, once you're in position and you have an elite quarterback and an elite defense, anything can happen.
Okay. Yes, Deshaun Watson almost beat the Titans in Week 17. But the Giants don't even have a wide receiver that even resembles Brandon Cooks. And he had 11 receptions, 166 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's how bad our...
Brandon Cooks is not that good.
No, he's not.
Shepard but our is on the same level as Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks is on another... Oh, my God.
What are you talking about? Brandon Cooks is never even on the field. He's literally hurt all the time. What are you even talking about? Dude, Brandon Cooks is not some elite wide receiver. He's not a wide receiver.
Okay, so when's the last time that Sterling Shepard had a 38-yard touchdown reception? Tell me that.
Don't care.
Deshaun Watson
offense. Dude, they play Deshaun Watson offense. That's factored into that.
Yes, exactly. But the Giants do not play a vertical offense. They don't have the personnel for
because
that right now.
Because of our quarterback. Our personnel is the quarterback. That's why. They don't trust Daniel Jones. Dude,
that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You were one of the biggest advocates. You were one of the biggest advocates for Daniel Jones going downfield.
They should trust him, but they don't. They
don't trust the offensive line. They do trust him. They don't trust the offensive line.
They don't trust the offensive line to protect Daniel Jones because they know that once Daniel Jones gets pressured, he makes bad decisions. Deshaun Watson doesn't.
No, because the receivers can't create separation. They were one of the last teams in the league in yards per separation for wide receivers. I bet you if you look at Brandon Cook's separation, it blows away anyone on our team.
I bet you it doesn't. I'm going to go find it right now.
Please. Because, we're talking...
I don't know where you got this thing in your head that Brandon Cooks is some elite wide receiver.
He's not. I did not say that. I did not say that. What I said was he's better than any Giants wide receiver. He's better than any Giants wide receiver. And I'm not saying Brandon Cooks is elite by any means. No means at all. I am saying that the Giants have zero freaking talent at wide receiver except for Sterling Shepard, who is a short to intermediate receiver and good red zone threat. He is not someone that's going to push the field. He is not someone you're throwing 40-yard balls to downfield. That's not his game. It never has been. I just don't. I would love to see the highlights from this.
Who do you think leads the league in separation? In wide receivers? This separation statistic. Who do you think is leading the league in separation? Just if you had to throw a guess out there.
Maybe Devontae Adams?
No, Deebo Samuel. You know who's number 2? Robert Tonyan. You know who's number 3? DeMarcus Robinson. So the separation thing is oftentimes a scheme-based thing. Allen Lazard is averaging 3.7 yards of separation per reception. That's crazy. That's because he plays in a good offensive scheme. The separation thing, I understand that the Giants wide receivers aren't getting open. You and I have gone over this and are in agreement on that, but it's not everything. Those separation stats are not everything. Brandon Cooks is averaging 3 yards of separation. Let's see what Sterling Shepard is. If you think it blows it out of the water, guess how many yards of separation Sterling Shepard's averaging?
3.2.
Three. They're literally the same. They are the same. Yeah, but they're
such. But we're talking about two vastly different players. Brandon Cooks is a straight up vertical player. That's what his game is. Sterling Shepard creates separation in the almost whip routes, drags, very shallow routes. That is his game. Brandon Cooks, literally, Deshaun Watson averaged a career high 8.9 yards per attempt. And we're talking, literally half of his big plays half of his points come from massive plays downfield. That's what he's really good at. He's really good at creating off script and finding guys downfield for those long plays. I just don't think the Giants, maybe if you draft a second rounder who can get downfield and really create that opening and Deshaun Watson can get open, you would need to overhaul your whole offense to fit him though. That's the thing. And I know you're okay with that. And I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that at all. I am opposed to giving up Saquon, DJ, and 3 first rounders. I am okay with giving up DJ and 2 first-rounders for him, and maybe a couple other maybe I'd even be okay giving up 2 first-rounders, Saquon and DJ. I just don't. The 3 first round is just pushing it too far for me because it's just too much of a risk. It's just too much of a risk for one player. All it takes is one injury
for a player that can win you Super Bowls. Like, you're taking a risk for an invaluable asset. Like, a top 5 quarterback is literally priceless, dude. This has never happened before. We've never seen a team trade a top 5 quarterback.
Right. So we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see what happens. It's really hard to even argue. Why would you not want to take
the chance to be on this side of history where it literally could be the greatest move that your franchise ever makes? You don't. It could be the worst.
It could be the worst.
But it literally could be the greatest. But it literally could be the greatest.
But that's the gamble.
The greatest move in NFL history for a team. It literally could be.
It could be. Of course, it could be. But we
take that risk. I'm fine with taking that risk, man. Take the risk. I don't even care. I don't care if it bottoms out, if he gets hurt and never plays another snap. We took the risk, and that's what mattered. Because say he stayed injured, we all would have been in agreement. Man, the Giants had a pretty decent team. We had Deshaun Watson in this lineup. We might have went to the Super Bowl. That's what we'll say every single year if it doesn't work out. If it does work out, if we make this trade and we get Deshaun Watson, every single year we are going into the season with Super Bowl aspirations. We're literally every year talking about us as a playoff team because that's what we are. Just because Deshaun Watson's on a roster every single year.
Okay, and then the other side of that is what happens if they get DJ a good weapon, a good wide receiver in free agency, they draft wide receiver, they get Saquon back, the offensive line takes a step forward, and finally we see some continuity because he's in the second year of an offensive scheme. He's been rotating offensive schemes.
It still doesn't fix it for me. I still am not going.
If
the Giants sign Kenny Galladay, Jalen Waddle, and Kyle Pitts all in this offseason, which literally is impossible, but if they did all that, I still wouldn't call us a playoff team. I still would not be 100% certain that the Giants are going to the playoffs with 3 unproven, Kenny Galladay's proven, whatever, with 2 unproven draft picks. Let's just say Kenny Galladay and Jalen Waddle. Let's say they double dipped at wide receiver. I'm still not calling us a guaranteed playoff team. You still have to worry about the Washington football team, and you still have to worry about it's all contingent on Daniel Jones making a huge leap from 11 touchdown passes in 2020. He's going to have to put up 20-something touchdown passes in 2021 if he wants to be an elite quarterback and take us to the playoffs. You have to have good quarterback play to go to the playoffs. You cannot convince me that a bad quarterback is taking you to the playoffs. You have to have good quarterback play. So I'm not going into the season because he's not proven. We know that Daniel Jones is not a proven commodity, but we know that Deshaun Watson is a proven commodity who is elite, top 5, and going to take you to the playoffs every year. So no, I don't care who we sign, who we draft. I'm still not going to go into the season thinking that we are a playoff team because I have not seen playoff level quarterback play out of our quarterback Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm looking right now at Deshaun Watson's his second year in the NFL. I'm looking at his second year. He threw for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and fumbled the ball 9 times. If you hear those stats without attaching the name Deshaun Watson to him, you're probably like, okay, that's a good quarterback. I wouldn't say he's great. You know, but then he took the step forward
Tell me it's a quarterback in his second season, and I say he's great. That was his second season in the NFL, dude.
He was sacked 62 times. I mean, look.
He was sacked 62 times and still put up 4,100 passing yards and 26 touchdowns. Like, he had 26 touchdowns and 62 sacks. Like, in his second season in the NFL, to be sacked that many times is bizarre. It's nuts. And for him to still be that good of a quarterback, hell yeah, I think that he is a great quarterback. And that, if I hear that stat line, and I know he's in his second year, I think he's absolutely a great quarterback with potential to go on and be a top 5 in the league.
I mean, look, he definitely could end up being he is a top 5 quarterback, but I'm just worried because I'm really worried because it is so many different factors that play into this thing. And one of the main ones for me is the cap space situation because due to COVID, that cap space is going to take a couple of years to get back to normal and really get to where we thought it was going to be this upcoming offseason. And with that being said, you know, when that $40 million cap hit hits you in 2022 and you can't make any more signings and you have no top draft picks to fill any major needs because you know this team is going to need needs after giving up that much capital. You know they're going to have issues. They still do. This team is not even if you get Deshaun Watson right now, with the way the NFC East is looking, how well Washington played at the finish of the year, how well I think Dallas is going to play next year. Maybe they won't be just significantly amazing, but I think they're going to be a lot better. But the way Washington's playing, I think it's going to be really tight. The NFC East is going to be super competitive moving forward. And even if you get Deshaun Watson, I don't think they're guaranteed a playoff spot. That's going to and plus the extra game too is it's tough. I don't think they're guaranteed a playoff spot by any means. The Texans weren't a playoff team. They were 6 what were they? What was their record? 4 and something?
4-12.
So I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm not guaranteeing that.
You actually don't think that if Deshaun Watson stepped on this Giants roster, they went 6-10. Washington won the division at 7-9. You don't think the Giants are winning 8 games and making it to the playoffs?
Dude, 8 games might not. 8 games is not going to get us to the playoffs. There's an extra game next year. 8 games is not getting us. This year. Oh, yeah, for sure. But I'm not talking about this past season. We're talking about a historically bad NFC East.
Let's say we trade for Deshaun Watson now, and next season we have Deshaun Watson, and we have a wide receiver that we maybe sign in free agency or get in the second round of the draft. We're not talking about 8 wins with Deshaun Watson. We're talking about 10, 11, 12 at least. That's what we're talking about with Deshaun Watson combined with this Giants defense.
I don't know if you can sign a big wide receiver and get Deshaun Watson and Leonard Williams. I don't know if you can pull it off.
$10.5 million. You can.
No, I'm saying. I'm sorry. I said 2022. And even this next season, if you do, the Giants don't have much money. They're going to have to backload all their contracts like they did with Logan Ryan, 2022, 2023.
We can do that. You can make the cap work. I don't even think the cap is really the big deal. I think the talent. We always talk about the Giants just don't have talent on their roster. Why would we not want to get one of the most talented players in the NFL? He's literally priceless. You can't even. It would be nearly impossible for you to come up with a trade scenario that I wouldn't accept and throw out there to the Texans. Like, even try. Go ahead and try, dude. I'll probably be cool with it. Make it somewhat realistic and reasonable, and I will probably be cool with it.
I mean, the Giants just don't have enough really great talent that's even worthy of trading. Saquon and DJ are the really only assets on
That's why that
deals.
makes sense. That's why that makes sense.
Well, of course it makes sense if you're offering like a realistic deal. I just wouldn't accept it just because I just don't think if it doesn't pan out, it's too much of a risk for me. Look, I'm playing a more conservative play with my opinion here. It's just too big of a risk for me because you're trading 5 first-round pick values for one pick, and I'm scared of that. I'm scared of that.
Here's one more thing that I'll say about this. Deshaun Watson, so you're mortgaging your next first-round picks, your next 3 years of first-round picks. Deshaun Watson is not a win-now move. Deshaun Watson is a win-now and later move. Deshaun Watson's not just going to be here 3 years. You know, it's not like you're trading this for Aaron Rodgers because he might get on the trade block somehow this offseason, right? It's not like you're trading 3 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers who's going to give you maximum of 3 years, right? It's not like that. You're getting Deshaun Watson who's going to give you around 10 years. So you're trading 3 for 10. Like, you're not really mortgaging your future. You're just investing it into Deshaun Watson. And then you're saying Deshaun Watson, these next 3 years, I don't know if we're going to win a Super Bowl these next 3 years because we don't have these first-round picks to help us. But year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we have our picks back, and we have Deshaun Watson, and we have a better roster than we did 3 years ago. That's what you're looking at.
I understand that. I mean, that's a good argument. If you're looking long term and you're looking 10 years, if he plays with the Giants for 10 years, maybe he decides to go somewhere else after his contract's over. But they would probably end up extending him even further beyond that. Obviously, if you're gonna trade all that value away, you're obviously gonna try and keep him for the long term. But again, like the NFL these days, injuries are so prominent and prevalent, and I just don't feel totally comfortable mortgaging our future on one player, even though he's a top 5 talent, especially a running quarterback who loves to escape the pocket, who's been sacked 60. Every time a quarterback gets sacked, you never know. We saw it with freaking Alex Smith. All it takes is Aaron Donald to jump on Deshaun Watson's back, his leg snaps in half, and suddenly he's out for 10 years, for a whole season.
Yeah, sure. Maybe injuries could happen, but maybe injuries don't happen. Maybe he plays at an elite level for another 10 years. Like, the injuries thing, I don't know. You can't do that. You can't actually point out, like, the injuries to me because you're taking the risk on the player, his talent. And it's not like Deshaun Watson has, like, a severe injury history. Like I said, Daniel Jones' injury history is far worse. He has injuries dating back to college that are still lingering, like that broken collarbone, and then the ankle problem he had then, and now the ankle problem that he had last year, now the ankle problem that he had this year. Like, he's far more injury-prone than Deshaun Watson, who tore his ACL once in his rookie season and then bounced back and had a dominant year, right? So, to me, and then the other thing is, with these first-round picks and everything, you want to take away these first-round picks and you want to, like, really hold that as, like, the naysay, right? You look at the Chicago Bears that threw 3 first-round picks over to the Raiders and acquired Khalil Mack. That didn't work out that well because they never got their quarterback. They tried. They spent the 2nd overall pick on Mitchell Trubisky, and they didn't get their quarterback, though. Imagine they traded those 3 first-round picks, and they got Deshaun Watson because they drafted him instead of Trubisky because they literally could have done that. Think about that. Imagine you gave up those 3 first-round picks, got Khalil Mack, and Deshaun Watson, the Bears are Super Bowl team every year. They're literally a Super Bowl contender every single year after that. That's the difference, dude. You want to trade 3 first-round picks? There's teams that are literally willing to give up 3 first-round picks for an edge rusher in Khalil Mack because he's so good. If you're not willing to give up 3 first-round picks for a top 5 quarterback, I don't know, dude. You should be willing to do that. In my opinion, you should be willing to give up 3 first-round picks for a top 5 quarterback.
I'm not against the 3 picks. It's the addition of DJ and Saquon, and I get the argument.
Personally, Saquon isn't a big loss. That's me personally. And Daniel Jones, if you're literally trading Daniel Jones for Deshaun Watson, that's a gain. That's a win to me. So to me, I know it's Saquon, Daniel Jones, and 3 first-round picks. To me, the Saquon's just a little added sweetener for the Texans. It's not an added loss to me. That I don't see it that way.
Yeah, no, and I understand that because you're on the running backs don't matter train, and I also agree with you. Like the running backs we've seen what Wayne Gallman did this past year, and Alfred Morris behind a shady offensive line, and that says a lot about the running back position in general. But in all honesty, it really comes down to coaching a lot of the times, and play calling and schematics, because we've seen what players like Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook can do for a team. The Giants just never figure out how to actually maximize their weapons. That's the main problem. So even if you get Deshaun Watson, Jason Garrett's going to kill him. He's gonna scheme short underneath routes. He's not going to be able to play his game. He's not going to be able to throw it downfield. And that's a huge concern, obviously, if you're thinking about it. But then you can always fire Jason Garrett, hire a new guy. But I just don't think the Giants are going to do that. I think they're sticking with Jason Garrett. I think they're sticking with Daniel Jones too. I highly doubt they even consider Deshaun Watson. Knowing Dave Gettleman, these are Saquon and DJ are his golden goose, or their golden geese. He's not going to trade those guys. That is basically his legacy with New York, and I don't think he's gonna sell on him. I think he still has faith. I think Joe Judge still likes Daniel Jones, and I think we haven't seen the best of Daniel Jones. I really don't. I really think that he is going to be capable of doing some good things for the Giants. He is never going to be a top 5, probably will never be a top 10 quarterback. But we saw what Nick Foles did. He won a Super Bowl, and he was not elite.
Nick Foles played that was an anomaly. Games, though. Nick Foles wasn't – Carson Wentz, I don't like Carson Wentz. I think he's overrated. I kind of – I call him trash can Wentz. He got them to the playoffs that year. Nick Foles cruised through, and that was a very specific situation. I don't like the Nick Foles argument because it was a very specific situation where we saw a coach who nobody had any film on pull things out of his back pocket in the playoffs and really coach their way to a Super Bowl. And, he's bottomed out since then, but it was a very unique situation where all he needed was a quarterback that understood the system. And they just didn't know how to defend that system at that time. Now they know how to defend the system, and he's out of a job. So that was a very unique situation. But if you look at Jimmy Garoppolo makes it to the Super Bowl last year, I think this is the better argument. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think most people agree, is about average, maybe slightly above, right? He made it to the Super Bowl. He makes that throw to Emmanuel Sanders, they win the Super Bowl. He doesn't make that. Deshaun Watson makes that. A top 5 quarterback makes that throw. That's the limitations between getting to the Super Bowl with an average quarterback and getting to the Super Bowl with an elite quarterback. They're going to step up and make that play.
Yeah, but you're missing a huge point here. You're getting to the Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan as your offensive player caller and coach is so much different than going with Jason Garrett. We can't continue to disregard.
I told you, if you trade for Deshaun Watson, you get a new OC. You don't.
Yeah, of course.
Garrett's offense. You get a new OC.
Oh yeah, of course. But again, you're not getting Kyle Shanahan. You're not getting some of these really, Sean McVay. You're not getting these guys. You're getting someone who might be a first-year offensive coordinator.
Was one of those guys, though. So when you mention Nick Foles, at the time, Doug Peterson was literally one of those guys. So
yeah, he's not anymore based on all the crap that went down. But
right, and Sean McVay really isn't even Sean McVay anymore, right? He's had his struggles in the past couple of years. Sean McVay's still excellent, but he's not what he was his first year, right? But
yeah, you catch on. Of course, you can catch on. But what I will say to finish up this entire thing is that I'm curious to see what happens. Just as a kind of a relevant topic, I'm curious to see what happens with Patrick Mahomes when he's off his rookie deal and that massive deal comes into play, and who they have to shed on offense, and how it's going to affect his play. Because we know those quick throws to Travis Kelce, those quick throws to Tyreek Hill, having those two guys is such a big deal for him. And when they can't afford him anymore, when they're going to have to cut bait, I'm really interested to see how that affects his game and how that affects the team in general. And really when Andy Reid ends up retiring at some point and Eric Bieniemy departs, it's going to be really interesting to see how Patrick Mahomes responds to that. and what he's capable of doing. I think Deshaun Watson naturally is one of the best quarterbacks based just on his natural abilities, just athleticism, his ability to throw downfield on the run, ability to create off script. All of those things make him such a quality player. But I'm scared. I'm scared about giving up all that capital because I don't like going all in on a player when you don't have the pieces to even help him win. You have to find a new offensive coordinator. Offensive line's still a mess. You have no running backs. You have no wide receivers. You have Evan Ingram's basically your only playmaker, and he was a turnover waiting to happen. So I get the love. I do understand why people would take this deal. After having the conversation and whatnot, I do get it. If you're looking long term, 10 years, eventually you're gonna move past the point of those 3 first-round picks. You're gonna get over Saquon. You're gonna get over DJ. It does make sense. I'm just scared that if we put too much into Deshaun Watson, we might be able to get the same amount of points per game. We might be able to. We haven't really seen peak DJ yet. I'm scared that we might just be selling too early. When there's still left, when there's still just extra stuff. You know what I'm trying to say. There's still more to be found with Daniel Jones, Saquon, if he's healthy. I want to see these guys healthy and playing, though. Like, that's what I need to see that before. I wish we had this upcoming season and then Deshaun Watson decided he wanted to do this. Like, that's kind of that would be like an ideal scenario for me because I still feel like
though, now is the perfect time because the Texans might still think they can mold Daniel Jones into a starting quarterback. They might still think that they can take him and take a chance on him. Like, now is the time. Next year, we'll know too much about Daniel Jones. Because what if he actually is terrible this year and bottoms out? Then we can't even talk about this trade. We can't even mention it. You know what I mean? So it's honestly very predicated on the fact that Daniel Jones is still a big question mark. That's a big part of this trade. You need that in this. Listen, I get both sides of the argument. Obviously, I understand my side of the argument. I'm very stuck in my ways on my side of the argument. I feel very strongly about this, as Alex knows, because I don't think we've ever yelled at each other the way we did today. At the end of the day, does this matter? This conversation that we just had? Bro, no, it doesn't. This isn't going to happen. This isn't going to happen. But this was fun discussion, and it's interesting. And it's interesting to think about the NFL and the way that these things work and the way that things can change in just a second. And really, this is more of a situation where we're looking at uncharted territory for the NFL. We've never seen a quarterback traded like this. Some people are going to be fans of risking it all for that quarterback. Some people aren't. One of these teams in the NFL is going to do it. If he does get traded, one of these teams is going to risk it all to get him, and then we are going to see uncharted territory. How does that play out over these next 5 years? And that's the interesting thing to me. Whether it's the Giants, whether it's the Dolphins, the Jets, whoever, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Like I said, we're sailing into uncharted territory, and it's a very exciting time to be an NFL fan. And for me, if the Giants were to make this trade, it'd be a very exciting time to be a Giants fan. I would instantly buy a Deshaun Watson jersey, and I would be so happy to watch Deshaun Watson lead my team to the playoffs year in and year out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole hypothetical, but, I'm interested to see where he goes, too, because this is going to be the first time a top 5 quarterback in the NFL has ever been traded. This is going to be arguably the biggest trade in the history of the league. This is what, comes with Deshaun Watson leaving Houston, if he ends up going, but whatever team it is, man, I cannot wait to see what they have to give up for him because it's going to be an absolute brink truck of a haul that they're going to have to back up into the freaking Houston's laps. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm curious. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it, even though Houston continues to state that they are not going to be selling on Watson. They want him. There's a reason that they brought in a bunch of these new guys, and the reason that they're even there in the first place is because they thought Deshaun Watson was going to be their guy. The fact that he's requested a trade, he seems to be really pissed off, and he seems to be pretty much on the boat that he's going. Like, he's gone. Like, they've disrespected him enough. So we'll see what happens. I'm really curious to see what goes on. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to Fireside Giants and this just ridiculous rant for an hour. It was fun. Of course, it's all love. We just differing opinions, and that's always okay. You go to Twitter and you say something, and someone might call you a mean name, but we're not here to do that. We're here to just embrace all the love, and we're all Giants fans at the end of the day. We all want the team to be great. We may have different ideas and ideology about how they can get to be great, but that doesn't mean we all don't want the same thing. So I'm pretty excited about the future. Either way, whether we go Deshaun Watson or we stay with Daniel Jones, we stay with Saquon. We have a really high draft pick this year. We're going to sign a wide receiver most likely. So we're going to get better. The offense is going to improve, just a matter of how much. So as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you all for the love and support. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and to turn your notifications on iTunes and Spotify. And we will catch you guys on the next one.